The Standing Committee regular meeting of Texas Southern University Board of Regents will now come to order at 12:33. We will open with a prayer by Reverend J. Jakari Pierre Davis of Bella Vista Missionary Baptist Church. I have a short bio here. Reverend J. Jakari Pierre Davis serves as a senior pastor of Bella Vista Missionary Baptist Church. Reverend Davis is a proud graduate of Texas Southern University, where he obtained a degree in human services and consumer sciences with an emphasis in child family development. He is presently attending Houston Graduate School of Theology, pursuing a Master of Divinity degree. He's also a proud member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. He is married to the love of his life and best friend, Danielle Denise Davis, and they have two daughters. Devin Dione, is that her name? All right. And Darian Devon? Okay, I got that right. All right. Please come forward. I'm sorry if I butchered that pronunciation, so. All right, the floor is yours.
Thank you. To Dr. Lane, Chair of the Board, and to all of you who are stewards of this board, and to each of you who are assembled, thank you for this opportunity to come back and share in this occasion with my alma mater. Shall we bow in a posture of respect and prayer? Father, we thank you for every seat that has been filled here in this room this day, for each mind and heart that feels the presence of this room. We thank you. Only you truly know what we're setting out to accomplish in this gathering today. And we all have an idea, a vision, hints, and daily instructions that guide our paths. We have talents, abilities, and time to work in which you have blessed us with. However, only you can see in perfect detail the end of every beginning, every project, every season, every life. Nothing is ever in vain, for even mistakes and missteps are used for our good and your glory. Your righteousness transcends all our efforts and understanding. And we humbly ask that you forgive us of our pride, the pride that puffs us up, and the pride that threatens to unqualify us. Strengthen our confidence in you who have made us to be, and set us free from comparison in order to work together efficiently. So bless this meeting today, all those present, as well as the lives of those we will encounter afterward. And we're ready to make every moment count. In the name of your Son, our Savior, Jesus, who is the Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right, we'll now move on to roll call. Ms. Ruiz, will you please call the roll?
Regent Hassan Mack,
Present.
Regent Wesley Terrell,
Present.
Regent Marilyn Rose, Regent Ron Price, Regent Mark Carter, Regent Pamela Medina, Regent Derek Mitchell, Regent Albert Myers, Regent Jay Zeidman, Student Regent Ashley Johnson.
All right, Regents, a quorum has been established. We'll move on to open forum. At this time, we provide an opportunity to hear from those individuals who have signed up for an open forum to speak before the board. For those scheduled to speak, I would like to remind you that the board bylaws allows each speaker a maximum of 3 minutes. I'll ask Ms. Ruiz to track the time to provide notification when the speaker's time is expired. We'll now hear from the following individuals. Marcus Nash, SGA President. Mr. Nash, you have the floor.
Talking to the mic. Can you guys hear me? I would like to first start off by saying thank you for allowing me this time to speak. I just want to give you guys a quick update on what's going on the campus. First, I would like to start off by saying homecoming was a success. The students and the alumni were very pleased to have homecoming back on campus. President Lane and myself did a rap and ride with the students for a couple of hours on the Tiger Walk on the Metro Shuttle, just listening to the students' concerns and what could be improved on the campus of Texas Southern University. SGA has hosted a hygiene drive October 1st to the 3rd. We have hosted a town hall where we partner with Chad and Chu, Provost Harris, and Dr. McKinney to hear the concerns of the students as well. Midterm giveaway. During midterm week, we gave out supplies, Scantrons, blue books, highlighters, pencils, just to ensure that students have the materials that they need. We have had tower tutorials where student academic support partnership with SGA Resident Life and Campus Pals to ensure that we're increasing the academic support of our students, mostly the freshmen because they don't have the support that they need, but we're increasing that. Also, this week is SGA and UPC week, October 21st through the 25th, increasing school spirit and student engagement. Monday was the first day of voter registration, early voting on the campus. Mayor Sylvester Turner has came to campus and walked a few students over to the polling locations just to get them involved and let them know where the location is. Saturday, October 26th, NAACP Houston branch will be hosting a Millennial Get Out and Vote rally on the campus to increase voting turnout on the campus of Texas Southern. Now we're in the middle of partnering with the MPAC, the sports, all the campus leaders to host a big voter rally on the campus of Texas Southern during a Wednesday. We're trying to figure out the dates right now so we can increase that voter turnout. That's my report. Thank you. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you very much. All right, our next speaker is Edith Wu, President of the Faculty Senate. Professor Wu? All right.
Afternoon.
Afternoon, how are you?
First, I just want to say afternoon and thanks for the opportunity to talk to the board. But I want to introduce also my vice chair, Faith Jackson.
Good afternoon.
I feel blessed to have Faith Jackson because she's also from the law school. I usually say you're only as good as your team. And with Shan Gill, I think we make a dynamic team. Shan Gill is the coordinator. So, and we've done a lot. I also want to thank Dr. Cavill, the past chair, for his work because this is not an easy job. You're 24/7 and people think that you're their individual chair. And I tell them it's about the collective. So I want to say that we have about 4 priority issues at the faculty senate level. We've been given a mandate that, and I've told the faculty that we need to bring our A game. And that's what we want to do this year. We want to be correct. So when we come to Dr. Lane, then we won't have any excuses, right? That's our main thing. Like I said, we have 4 major issues and a few minor issues. I'm working with the provost offline on many of the issues, but I was telling Dean Jackson that 3 minutes is a rushed situation sometimes for me. And I can tell you basically what's going on. I know this is not my bully pulpit personally, and I don't take it like that. But from time to time, I may have to work with Faith Ruiz as far as like a board agenda item. And I see we have a committee that may be coming on board. So there may be some other avenues to talk about some issues. I looked at the agenda. We may be able to have opportunity to talk about issues that touch and concern not only the law school, but other departments and other faculty issues. So far, so good. We're in here, we're working. I tell people I know how to write a hot epistle. I don't mind being an advocate, and I'm an advocate for the faculty, but I do write sometimes I write letters, and I will continue to do that. So I may reach out, usually to the chair or to the president or to the provost, because that's really, I like to put people on notice. And I think that either you knew or you should have known. And I think that moving forward, we're not going to say that we did not know. So that's basically where we are with the faculty. We do have some issues, but like I said, I'm loquacious. So three minutes to me is really not enough. So those are the high points. Thank you. And we're in this great facility, and we are happy about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
With 20 seconds left on the time, so 3 minutes was enough. Our next speaker is Melanie Jackson, Chair of the Staff Council. Good afternoon, Ms. Jackson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, board members, President Lane. I'm Melanie Jackson, Staff Council Chair for 2019-2020. Happy to be here for one more time. Staff Council is off to a great start this fiscal year. We most recently hosted our kickoff event, the Fall Town Hall Meeting, in which we introduced the new members of Staff Council. Dr. Lane and his servant leader team made themselves available for this event, where he provided a brief overview of campus events and answered questions posed by our staff. Over 400 people participated in the event. Staff Council continues to host senior administration members for question and answer periods during our monthly meetings. To date, HR, General Counsel, and the Department of Public Safety have participated. Our CFO will join our next meeting. Events scheduled for the fall semester include a Thanksgiving food drive and a Christmas toy drive. Of course, we are already gearing up for our second annual Staff Development Day, and we are committed to continue to serve as advocates for the staff. Thank you for your time and have a tigerific day.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Next, we have Charles F. Cook. Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Cook.
Good afternoon.
All right.
Charles Cook. I've been here only since 8:30 this morning. I didn't get the memo. It was changing the time, so I had plenty of time to relax. I'm with Descendants of Olivewood. Olivewood is one of the oldest African-American platted cemeteries in the city of Houston. It sits on approximately 7 acres over here in the Heights area of Houston. And we were formed as a nonprofit. We're 501c3. 2005, in 2008, we got guardianship through the 11th District Court of Harris County as the official guardians of the cemetery to preserve, restore, and maintain this historic property. And I'm really a historian, so I've got involved in the history of the cemetery and those that are interred there. And the cemetery, when it was first platted in 1875, it was 5.5 acres. And in 1917, Olivewood Association acquired 2 additional acres. So it became 7.5 acres. And so in 1917, the lots that they bought to make the 2 acres, they bought lot 6 to 27. 27 went all the way to White Oak Bayou. So lot 1, lot 4, and lot 5, we went to HCAD, it belongs to Texas Southern. So how in the world Texas Southern get some land here in the cemetery? Well, 4 and 5 has burials on them. And the other day I was there, I said, let me look at the dates on these burials in 4 and 5. And I seen 2 World War I veterans. They both died about 34. And it's about 25 burials on 4 and 5. And Olivewood don't own 4 and 5. They own 6 to 27. And then lot 1, it's kind of like outside of the Olivewood proper. So I'm saying, how did Texas Southern get this land? So I researched, we went down to the city and to the county, looking at the old archives. And so we find this gift. Well, first of all, in 61, 2 white attorneys at a tax sale for back taxes acquired lot 1, 4, and 5. How would they owe taxes on 4 and 5? They have burials. It became part of Olivewood. And then in 82, I'm thinking these old boys, they're getting kind of old. They want to get rid of this property, so I call it fool's gold. So they gifted it to Texas Southern. So I have the deeds, I have the letter.
Let him wrap it up, but time's expired. If you can wrap it up so we can get to other speakers.
Okay, so they gifted it to Texas Southern in 82. I have been taking care of this property since 26 years, mowing it. Hadn't come to Texas Southern. We've been trying to talk to the president, no avail. So we're bringing it to the Board of Regents because the Governor Abbott, when he was the Attorney General, he issued an opinion in 2011 to the Board of Regents here at Texas Southern and to the Chief of Staff how to dispose of these 3 lots.
Okay, and if you have that opinion, we'll ask that Ms. Ruiz get a copy of it. We'll look at it. We'll definitely take a look. And I do appreciate you bringing this to our attention. I had not, I wasn't aware of it. But in our open forum, we try to limit it to 3 minutes. We have a lot of board business that requires action items and for us to vote. So if you could give that information to Ms. Ruiz at an additional meeting, we can visit on that. But right now, we need to stick to what's on our agenda. But
Thank you.
we're thankful that you gave us that information, and we'll take a look at the information you leave with Ms. Ruiz.
And
Faith,
Chairman,
yeah.
can I interject real quick?
Yeah.
Thank you for coming, because history is so important, and sometimes we forget about certain things, and how you outlined that, I thought it was very, very good subject matter to discuss. So I don't know what time we'll have a break. If you're gonna be around, I would like to visit with you, because I try to keep up with historical things like that, especially for the African American community in certain aspects of Houston. So I would like to visit with you if you
Thank you.
hang around.
I'll be available.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to go out of order on our open forum list of speakers. Is Jasmine Lee available? All right.
Hello. Good afternoon to everyone assembled. My name is Jasmine Lee, and I am also on the board with Mr. Cook at the Descendants of Olivewood. And one of the things that I want to expand upon is that the history and characteristics that we find at Olivewood are indeed very unique. So unique that we have been awarded and recognized by many local, state, and national and international bodies as to why Olivewood is so special. Just recently in May, we were awarded, we have now become a UNESCO Site of Memory to honor the diaspora across the globe. And the reason Olivewood is so important is that being created in 1875, we're finally getting the biographies of people who had survived enslavement. And here they are creating cultural expression without surveillance. And we want to preserve that. And we're not trying to take the land from TSU. What we want to do is build a partnership. In the past few years, Olivewood has been a spot of service learning. We've had universities come out and use the cemetery to explore different fields. History is perfect. A cemetery is a primary source. With our GIS programs that have come out, excuse me, we have used emerging technologies to track vegetation and erosion that has happened at Olivewood Cemetery. It's perfect for English because the epitaphs that we find there are unique and you don't find them in Anglo cemeteries. So taking a textual analysis of that is something that we're not seeing in scholarship nowadays. And as an anthropologist, which I am, it's fascinating to research an underrepresented section of history. So if you have any questions, Mr. Cook and I will be happy to answer any of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Next for open forum is Ronnie E. Dixon. Okay. All right. Mitchell Snyder. All right. Mr. Snyder, you have the floor.
Check, check. Before I begin my speech, I would like to have a moment of silence for my fallen colleagues who have had their careers murdered and their characters assassinated while the administration sat by. Board of Regents, it's an honor to speak before you, and I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the respect that you've shown previously in the interactions that I've had with some of you. My message today is, where do we go from here? Part 2. And I'll be reading from the King James Bible using Jeremiah chapter 5, verse 21. If you have your Bible app or your Bible out, please read with me. Hear now this, O foolish people, and without understanding, which have eyes and see not, which have ears and hear not. That's enough. Amen. Where I come from, people do what they say they'll do, but at TSU, you should often expect the exact opposite. Dr. Lane, with all the sincerity that I can muster, I want to say that I really like you as a person, and
And I think it's really cool to have known you and interacted with you. But as a president and as an administrator,
Before you even say anything, we don't take this time to defame anybody.
I'm
On the
not
board
defaming
and the
you.
administration, I know, and I'll give you some extra time for
Thank
this
you.
interjection. Be very careful.
I'm being,
This board doesn't, we don't tolerate it. We'll cut your time short and we'll ask you to leave. So I just want to preface with that. Just be respectful.
I'll be as respectful as I can be. Yes. 20? So, Dr. Lane, I really like you as a person, but as an administrator, I don't think that you have done the job that you're capable of. And I think the 5-point plan is a beautiful words, beautiful theory, but in practice it has not been put into place. Moving on. Where's Mr. Wendell Williams? Where's he at?
We're not going to use open forum to essentially indirectly besmirch people's character. If you have something, an overarching message that you want to give, this is a time to give it. Do not name drop people to go through what you dislike about them personally. That's not what we're here for.
So I can get 20 more seconds on that?
No. Wrap it up.
Okay, yeah. Where I come from, people do what they say, but at TSU, it's the opposite. You don't get what you say. I've had administrators, top administrators, say that they would do something for me, and then that doesn't happen. And so that's why I'm here. That's why I'm frustrated. And I wish that Texas Southern would look out for the people that it was originally made for, American black men. But those seem to be the biggest targets of discrimination and workplace hostility.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next to speak is Richard Ishmael. Oh. Ishmael, Richard? Okay. And Dwight Banks.
Good afternoon, board, gallery. My name is Darius Dwight Banks. I'm commonly called Dwight Banks. I'm here to speak for you today about something I'm very passionate about. Here are the facts. Texas Southern only has one building named after an alumnus. That's Robert Terry. It has one building named after a Prairie View alumnus. That's Cecilia Scott Lane. You don't see it, but that's a fact. Now, I brought these issues to the former board chair, and after he did some research, it was my understanding that this facility would be named in honor of alumnus. I did email an administrator about it. He emailed me back and said there are no plans at this time. Today, I'm here to bring a case before you, and I'll do this all year long, so expect it for me. On April the 10th, the Student Government Association passed Resolution SR-SP 1904. That means Senate Resolution, Spring 19, the fourth resolution. Ms. Naomi Elizabeth Andrews Cox. This resolution was not signed nor vetoed by then the SGA president, who was Aaron Dallas. Mrs. Cox deserves a facility named in her honor. Why? She has been at this university since she graduated from high school, which was before any of us were born. She was Miss TSU. She has 3 degrees from Texas Southern. She served on the board. She was the second longest board serving member. She is the longest serving alumni. She still volunteers in the law school. She was voted the Alumnus of the Year in 2015. According to the building name code, it says the definition that, I'm not gonna go through all this, but basically it simply says a person doesn't have to pay $10 million. These are the facts, board, and I'm glad a regent said this. These are the facts. None of the board members, none of the presidents that any building is named after have ever paid 1 penny. However, the philosophy on this campus is that the alumnus must pay for it. We have 3 board members that I know that are alumnus. I'm asking you to do something this year. I'll be back and I will present 6 cases to you, 4 alumnus, 2 non-alumnus. And I'm asking you to take it seriously and read it. This was uploaded. If you don't have it, contact me. I said, please read it. She's still alive. She said 2 things in my closing remarks when she came before SGA. She says, if Texas Southern is going to name something in my honor, number 1, do it while I'm alive so I can see it. Number two, I asked her, when will she go away? She said, when y'all carry me away. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much. That concludes our open forum. We will now move on to our board business. You know, and I'm going to do things a little bit differently. Conflict of interest statements, I think it more appropriate to do that when we are actually voting on items, action items. I don't think doing it ahead of time is appropriate, so we'll hold off on that. But we will move on to a really good item. I'm happy to do this, is proclamation for our former Regent, Sarah Monte Arnone. Regent, do you want to come up so you can speak on the microphone? I don't know if there's a mic over there. You can take Derek's seat until he, or you have one? Okay. Okay. Then you can come. You come on up. You okay?
I'm fine. Good.
Yeah,
good, good.
Carter's-
This is.
okay.
I've got the view. I just don't want to lose that
Okay.
view. I
We
just
made
don't
it
want
for
to
you.
lose that view.
We made it for you.
This is great. Thank you so much.
That's true. So yeah, that's actually a good start. We actually owe your hard work and dedication, and former President Rudley worked on this and brought this to fruition, this tuition revenue bond. I believe it was done in 2015, 2016 legislative session. I know we started construction
Yeah.
2013. 2013. So you were working on that, and you brought this beautiful library facility to us, and we appreciate that. We really do. So we have a proclamation for former Regent Sarah Monte Arnone. I'm going to take some time to read it. It's quite lengthy, so bear with me. She's done a lot of good things. So, whereas Regent Sarah Monte Arnone was appointed to the Texas Southern University Board of Regents by former Governor Rick Perry in 2013, she is a partner and a leader of the Immigration Practice Group for Monte and Ramirez, where she practices exclusively in the area of U.S. immigration and naturalization law. She counsels employers in all aspects of employment-based immigration, including non-immigrant and immigrant visas, permanent residency, citizenship, policy development, and compliance with the ever-increasing regulations applicable to both U.S. employers and the foreign nationals who they employ. And whereas Regent Monte Arnone's clients have encompassed individuals, investors, merging in mid-sized business and large corporations in a variety of industries, including energy, healthcare, IT consulting, oil and gas, financial services, and the import-export of consumer goods. She also assists clients in performing immigration due diligence in preparation for corporate restructures and merger and acquisition transactions. Routinely, she assists foreign nationals at U.S. consulates and embassies abroad to facilitate the issuance of visas necessary to enter the U.S. She also represents individuals in removal matters. And whereas Regent Monte Arnone is a longtime supporter of her local community and is often heard on the local radio station speaking out about immigration, her ties and work with immigration have enabled her to make significant accomplishments in aiding her clients. She was honored with the Award of Excellence in Texas Practice in 1997 and the Amdur Award in Criminal Law, Cali Award of Excellence in 1996. And whereas Regent Monte Arnone is licensed to practice law in the Southern District of Texas and the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, she represents employers and foreign nationals before the Department of Homeland Security, Department of State, Department of Labor, and Department of Justice. And whereas Regent Monte Arnone was appointed to serve the Texas Southern University Board of Regents from April 26, 2013 through February 1st, 2019, and whereas Regent Monte Arnone earned a doctorate of jurisprudence from Texas Southern University in 1997 as a cum laude graduate in several independent training engagements. And be it therefore resolved that Texas Southern University presents this proclamation to the Honorable Sarah D. Monte Arnone on October 25th, 2019, in recognition of her genuine support of Texas Southern University, one of the largest historically black colleges and universities in the United States.
My goodness. Thank you so much. I would like to say, oh, thank you. I would like to say one thing. Thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to say one thing. That beautiful text that you read would be reduced to probably one sentence, but for Texas Southern University. This is the place that, when I came, I was a 35-year-old single mother, and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know where my path was taking me, and it was because of this school that embraced me and formed me and challenged me very much But at the end of the day, but for this wonderful institution, all those beautiful things you said would not be possible. And I thank you, and I am so grateful that I was able to come. And I don't know about building this. I really didn't get my hands too dirty, but it was the vision of so many people and all the people here. I only ask one thing, and I know that, Chairman, you're going to do that you put us to work. You've got lots of former regents, and I know you're going to be sending out and requesting that the former regents that have been so involved with Texas Southern University, that they come back home. They've got some work to do. We did our 6-year, 12-year, whatever we did, but there's still a lot of work to be done. Right. And I am answering your call that we've got our work is not finished yet, and that's the thing I would like to say.
And I'll just add to that, and some of the regions don't know this, but I'll enlighten them. We've kind of floated some terms around what can we call service after our appointed term, and one of the things that came out was Steve. That's on record. We had one term. It was a Regent Hall of Fame, Regents Hall of Fame, and we're still toying with the idea. But she's so right, because the regents that are on this board still have vast contact bases, vast networks, are still sometimes plugged in at a very high level in their respective industries. And why should we not continue to tap into that wealth of knowledge, financial access? It's just a huge resource. And so I've reached out to Regent Monty to say, would you like to help us with this? And if you know her, she said yes before I could finish the sentence. She's on board, she's engaged, and we have all of the contact information for all of our former regents. So we do need to reach out. We do need to invite them and keep this thing going, because your service doesn't stop just because your term ended, right? I'm a graduate of this school. We have other graduates from the law school, the university itself, on this board who want to give back outside of their term of service. And you are doing that already. We appreciate it. We thank you. She was the first person that I met when I came to my first board meeting. She coached me. Well, she was my desk mate. But I'll leave the floor open to anyone who would like to say anything who served with Regent Montiononi, and I will leave you the floor.
I'd like to say something to Regent Medina. Thank you so much, first of all, for your service to our alma mater. And it's interesting that you and I have pretty similar backgrounds. But also, I don't think you remember, but you and I have also worked together with the Mexican American Bar Association. And I just want to thank you that anytime we called you, anytime, obviously what Chairman Mack stated, we call you, you come with just an eagerness to work and to, but you also come and you bring a wonderful smile and brighten up the room. So that helps a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's the Tiger way, right? That is.
That's right.
Tigerific. I love that. Tigerific. Yes. Thank you so much.
And I think I've worked with you alongside you on this board for 6 years. And I really appreciate working with you and enjoyed the time that we spent getting to know each other and trying to work out things around here. And I'm going to miss you, but I do feel good about the opportunity that Chairman Mack has said, and I've said that in the past. Why is it that the former regents are not involved or not invited to anything that we have around the campus? Because my husband was a board of regent at the University of Houston, and there's nothing that goes on there that he's not invited to. So I always question, why is it that we are not inviting our former board of regents or keeping them engaged? And the same thing he said, financial support or anything that can help. So this is a good start, and I look forward to seeing you some more.
Great.
Yeah, Regent, it was certainly a pleasure to work with you for the 4 years that we overlapped together. I can recall that you brought a lot of passion and energy to to particular issues that you certainly cared about in terms of advancing the university. And I can already say your voice has been missed, even though we've got great regents. And I look forward to seeing you put that passion towards a new endeavor. Certainly. Thank you.
I'm going to ask that. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, I
You
didn't.
just gonna hog the
You
floor,
know, no,
Mr.
no.
Chair?
You know, our new system.
say,
Look, our new system doesn't let me know when the mics are on. So go ahead.
Okay, still some meat on the bone, isn't it? I just want to make sure, all right? I had the pleasure of receiving an email from this honorable lady the other day. My name was announced by the governor's office that I was coming down here. Then I had the pleasure to sit by her for 2 full hours. It was my first board meeting, her last board meeting, and you did a magnificent job of only kicking me in my knee. And Medina learned from me because she pinches me on my elbow. So it was just a pleasure meeting you for those 2 hours, and I wish I would have had opportunity to serve my whole entire opportunity on this board with you and have that spirit of that can-do spirit, and we can be a family and get this done spirit. So thank you for my 2.5 hours of blessing that you provided me with back in April.
Well, you know, I have to say something. You know, I love you and I appreciate you, and I miss all those text messages that you would send me. And I will remember when you were in my interview in the airport, and I left thinking that, man, she has a lot of passion for Texas Southern University, and that was true all the years that I was able to work with you. So I'm glad, as Chairman has said, that you're going to be connected to us. You're going to come back and keep helping us. It's not rehab, as Regent Price is describing over there, but thank you for all that you have done on behalf of all of our faculty and our staff and our students. We really appreciate you coming back home, and thank you for all your service.
As if you come forward, we'd like to take a photo with you.
That's
All
great.
right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, hold up, proclamation. One more this way. Okay, hold it. Okay, 1, 2, 3. More. 1, 2, 3.
Is that it? Can't hold my stomach in too much more.
One more. 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Thank you again, Regent. All right. Moving on, we will be going on to nomination and election of board officers. Let's see, presentation.
Chairman, if you don't mind, if I can interject here.
Go ahead.
Just for a minute here. I know we're getting into the front part of this nomination process, so I just want to have a few comments here early on. How effective they may be still remain to be seen, but I've been on this board in a very, very short time. I think I've made 3 meetings so far. And in that time, I have thoroughly enjoyed working with staff, and I've thoroughly enjoyed working with the board here. What I want to suggest is that in the midst of this nomination process, the things that I've tried to do from a balanced approach is how people treat people and how the approach takes place around this table and directly between the administration and this board. And with that in hand, that seat that you occupy, I want to give you I want to applaud you early in this process to suggest that I think you've done a pretty good job in terms of balancing things with the folks on this board and with the administration here at the university. And I think it's very important that whoever occupies that seat takes into consideration a approach that does not restrict the agents of the regents of this board in their fiduciary responsibility and in their duties of this board to work on the behalf of this university in this great state that we live in. So with that being said, I'm not for sure how the nomination process works because I just said I'm sort of new to the board, but I'm going to put my foot forward here and suggest that I'd like to see you remain chairman of this board as we go forward.
I appreciate that. Nomination's been made. Is there a second?
I second it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I want to, before we move on, I do want to say one thing. I appreciate those kind words, Regent Myers, and I think anyone here who knows me knows that I'm not a heavy-handed person. If I'm wrong, you can tell me, and some have, and I will recorrect. Many have. I will recorrect course, and I think, and Regent Myers is right. Once we do this process and we delegate out the power of this position to the chairs, the chairmanship is not, there's no power there. I'm only honestly powerful up to this moment. And so as we make these committee appointments, you have the power. You are an individual who has the right to move this university in the direction that you see fit. And that's what the chair is supposed to do, is to delegate power out. And so that's the practice that I've taken. That's the practice I'll continue to take. And so when you get that opportunity to lead independently, and when we lead independently, we all collectively lead as a whole. And that's the way we are going to do it. That's the way we did in the past. That's the way we'll do it in the future. So with that being said, I appreciate it. I accept this responsibility. And I'd like to move on to the next officers of Vice President. I'll let the board, I'm sorry, Vice Chair. Sorry, I'm not trying to give you a second in command already. So Vice Chair, I'd like to move that Regent.
I think you can only call for them.
That's correct. Regent Myers, did you want to make another motion or?
I think you have to call for the motion. I think you've done it. So are you calling for a nomination?
I'm calling for a nomination.
For Vice Chair.
We have a nomination for Vice Chair.
I nominate Regent Myers, Albert Myers, as Vice Chair.
Okay. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Nomination for Assistant Vice President, Vice Chair. Second Vice Chair. Motion's been made. Second?
I second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And nomination for Secretary.
I nominate Regent Price.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Got that done. All right. So we have our officers. Regents, at this point in time, I'm going to jump out of order to do the. Okay, point of personal privilege. Yes, you have the floor.
Regent Myers' comments about his experience, we all, 5 of us showed up around the same time, and we're all celebrating our 6 months on this board. And I just want to make comments, and my comments I'm about to say has nothing to do with President Lane. Personally, I like him, and it's not something to take a shot at President Lane at all. So let me get that out straight. It's not an attack on President Lane. It's a conversation about the culture that must change at Texas Southern University, and it starts with the Board of Regents and the treatment of the Board of Regents mainly. In the last 6 months, I've witnessed the treatment of the Board of Regents as something that I've never seen before in my life, and it must change immediately on President Lane. If staff members cannot respect the Board of Regents, they need to be terminated, or the board will have to take some action. I started off with my first experience at the Prairie View Grambling football game, and we had a board suite for the Board of Regents, but individuals came in our suite, which quite frankly frightened some of us who was in there. I don't know how they got in our suite, but smelling like marijuana and alcohol and other things. And I was watching the face expressions of some of the spouses of some of the Board of Regents, as well as some of our faces, some of the people who came in our suite, and that's unacceptable. And then the second thing I want to say, well, several things I want to say. First and foremost, my first board meeting in April, I said that I believe in my heart that Texas Southern University can be one of the finest institutions in the United States that just happens to be an HBCU. And I echoed that again in June at the board retreat, that I feel in my heart that this institution can be one of the finest, if not the best, college institution in the United States. I still stand by those words. But it cannot get to that level unless we have respect for the folks who are in charge, who has been appointed by the governor to run this institution. At the Maroon and Gray event, I noticed that the Board of Regents was brought up on the stage with the board foundation. I thought that was a little odd, because one group is a group of wonderful people, but they come together to be on the foundation board. The other group is appointed by the governor of the state of Texas. I just thought that was a little odd, but I was new here, so I thought maybe that's the way you do things, but I've never seen any other institution do anything like that before. Following that, another issue that came across me was the recent presidential debate, which I must say staff did an excellent job working with the Democratic Party on hosting the debate, but I was disappointed on some of the behaviors and the treatment of the Board of Regents. Not myself or the chairman, but the way some of my colleagues was treated was unacceptable. Leaving the arena, the chairman and I witnessed our colleagues and their spouses on the back row of the arena. The last row of seats was the Board of Regents of this university. The gentleman sitting there, I can't recall your name, but the gentleman who drove us with the cart, facilities guy, was kind enough to drive the chairman and I and Faith away from the arena because we wasn't going to be part of the debate, Mr. President. All of a sudden, my phone rang, and it was the chairman, it was the finance chair of the Democratic Party, and President Biden called me. Vice President Biden called me. And I turned to Chairman Mack and the Faith and said, I got the Vice President on the phone and the Democratic Finance Chairman. And what hurt me was what they said. I said, you guys are running late, you okay? And when they said these words, we ain't worrying about being late. We got our board on the board. We ain't worrying about being late. Our board's on the board. We know you got us covered. And I turned to the chairman and I turned to Sister Faith and I turned to my gentleman who's driving us, because I had asked them could they turn around and take us to the arena because they wanted me to come back and hug him and the vice president before they came into the arena. And when I got the phone with the gentleman who raised Obama $1 billion and Hillary $1.6 billion, and the thought that they think enough of the Board of Regents that they didn't know that my colleagues were on the back row. My colleagues were on the back row of an event hosted by this university. That's unacceptable, and that can never happen again. Or heads need to roll, Mr. President. Heads need to roll. Then recently, at the homecoming event, which was excellent, it was excellent, Mr. President. You did an excellent job hosting, bringing the babies back home, bringing our family back home to the university for our homecoming. But once again, the Board of Regents was disrespected. The parade was wonderful, but when you and your spouse drove into, the driver brought you inside the university, we thought we were gonna follow you inside the university. But for some reason, our driver dropped us off a block away from the university. Like we was a bunch of homeless people trying to find a way home. And we had to walk back to university. I'm thinking to myself, how in the hell the Board of Regents is dropped off a block away from the university and have to walk back to the university? It was just unbelievable. Unbelievable. I know some people ain't used to being treated right, and they thought that was okay, and that's cool. That wasn't cool with me. I've never been part of a governing body treated this way. And it cannot, after the day, it cannot happen, Mr. President, or heads need to roll. You've done an excellent job. You inherited a mess, and you've been cleaning it up. But the culture of this mess has to change immediately, and it starts at the top, the way our regents are treated. Regent Medina has a love and a passion for that law school. I'm not a lawyer, but I play one on TV. She wanted to go to Chicago to be supportive and was denied an opportunity to support this university, not to micromanage, just to be a supportive spirit in the room for this university. You have some talented Board of Regents, not taking a shot at the former Board of Regents, but this group is highly talented. And they are here to help this university get to the next level. But it starts and stops with the Board of Regents being respected and honored as the Board of Regents. And if there's staff and members who cannot get that done, they need to tender their resignation today. But if they cannot respect this board once again, they need to go. But the stuff I've witnessed the last 6 months is unacceptable. Unacceptable. And it cannot be tolerated. I know some people are just good people being placed on boards, and there's other people who are born leaders, and they know how leadership's supposed to go. And quite frankly, I question some of the people on the board when you got hired, because you didn't have no good leaders, but you got them now. And we're here to support you. We believe in you, and we believe with the right leadership around this shoehorn, we can become the #1 university in the United States. But it starts with board members being respected and respecting ourselves. And I expect for us to be respected. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, and let me just say, I second everything that Price said. And culture starts from the top. And I think with the officers that we just elected, I know we stand in solidarity as it relates to having the right culture. And culture starting from the top down also has to come from the bottom up. And so even the administration staff, if we get and let me just say it like this, we expect as the board, the communications with the board from administration staff to be no different than the communication with the president and the board. We show deference to you because we know that you're here on the ground running the university, and we're here every other month. But there have been instances where communication is sometimes slow, sometimes inappropriate, and sometimes non-existent. And as the chair of this board, I have to empower my regents, as I said earlier, to get their jobs done, because I divest all of that power into different chairs, and we allocate the responsibilities of this university pursuant to these committees. I cannot have committee chairs call me and tell me that the administration staff is unable to, for whatever reason, unable to effectuate the answers to questions from the board because it stops my board chairs from doing their jobs. And some of that is culture based. So today that stops. If a board regent calls, there should be no delay. You are expected to treat us the same way that we have the president treat us. When we call him, we are expecting him to get us the answers and also highlight the most material components of that answer. At times, there have been instances where this board has been shown some information, whereas the material components of the information has been withheld. Those are things that will subject people to termination. The material components of what is going on at the university on the ground is something that the board has a right to know. And if you stop us from doing our jobs, we'll stop you from doing yours. I'll leave that, and I'll end with this. The president is doing a fantastic job. He's doing a fantastic job. He can't be 100 places at once. So the same way that we divest our power to the regents and chairs, he's divesting his power to his administration staff. So we expect, and if there's an understanding different than what is being stated today, it goes away. You can speak to the board freely, administration, because we expect you to. If we find out that you cannot, you should tell us, because we expect you to be empowered to give us the material components of every question that we ask so that we can run this university and put it in the right direction. As Regent Price said, best university in the United States, not the best HBCU. If anyone has any other statements, we can move on to board business. I see that Regent Mitchell. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Is this a point of personal privilege?
I'm just going to follow up
Go
on
ahead.
your discussion. So apologize for being late. But I came in, I guess, at the tail end of your speech. But I think his rant. I think one thing, I agree with probably most of what you're saying from a philosophical standpoint, but I think I want to remind the regents that, remember, our job is at the highest level. And we don't want to put ourselves, Chairman, in a position where Sachs looks at us as micromanagers. I think part of the problem, what I've seen before, is you really should, I do this every day for a living. Mac, you do too. And that is, you really need to go to the president when it comes to ordering, if you will, or making requests from staff. Because technically, that's who they report to, right? And so then it's on the president. If you want something from finance, I think it's okay to mention it to Ken. However, it's the president that needs to call Ken and say, look, this needs to get done. So, because you can't fire Ken. We can't fire Ken. We can only fire this guy. He fires Ken. And so the point is, we talk to him about whatever it is that you're trying to get, and then we don't have to have a rant in public about what you're not getting or that you're not happy about what staff's not doing. I think that's something that the discussion has to happen between the president and the board, not with his staff.
Regent, hold on. Regent Mitchell, 100%. You're right. And we work through the president, and then the president delegates. I mean, it's the same process we have here. I'll get questions and I delegate, that's academic affairs. You need to call Regent Regent Price. And we work that way. But if I get calls on something that he sent to me and I direct it to that appropriate chairman, and then that chairman calls me back and says, I cannot present on this item. I have not been briefed appropriately. Well, that's a problem. But we're correcting the course. We're laying down the foundation of how this is going to work. And that's a good thing. And as far as in public, we're a public institution. I'm not ashamed to everything that I've said. I'm not ashamed, abashed. I've given him kudos. He's doing a great job. I want everyone to know how this is supposed to work. And I wanted to put words on paper, essentially, that the board has made a statement. This is how we expect it to work. If it doesn't work the way that we expect it to, as the buck stops here, we will take action to make sure it works the right way. But you are 100% correct. We do work through him, and he's fantastic in making sure that the people address us and try to get us information, but at times they don't. And so we need to address it. So
I had a couple statements.
Go ahead.
Well, I disagree with my colleague Regent Mitchell. I believe the statute says that we can, the board hires everybody. We have the power to hire everybody at the university. And we've been given the legal advice that we can terminate everybody, even down to the janitor, if it's the will of the board. Yes, we do appoint the president, but we also appoint all the vice president and all the executive management and VPs and various other folks are designated by policy as a point of contact to our various committee chairs and various committees, and it's appropriate that we talk to them or anybody else. At my job, we have something called the not so undercover boss, where not so undercover because we know who the executives are, but from time to time they go in our stores. Sometimes they want to see how things are operating and talk to people up and down the stack to get a full 360-degree viewpoint of how things are going on. I don't think any of that is inappropriate. And I do think that anytime that we make requests for information, we should get them in a timely fashion, not after we've taken our votes and can't necessarily do anything about it when material information has been omitted. And I do think that in the course, certainly of my professional career, of working and preparing materials for boards of directors with certainly board business as great or greater than is before us. Certainly has been my charge to make certain that they're well informed about all the material aspects. And I agree with you. Oftentimes, we've not necessarily been to the point where I've sometimes even afterwards, having gotten additional information, thought the information it provided to us was a bit misleading, which that clearly should not happen. So it is my hope that expressing these viewpoints here in the meeting will work to improve the situation so that we in the future don't necessarily have those issues again. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think I need to make sure we got this right. So, number one, you're wrong, Regent Terrell, that our job, the statute does not give us the authority to hire and fire. I don't need to read it. I know it. I get paid really well to know this. So, yeah, no, you don't. But we're not going to debate.
Okay,
No need
okay.
to debate.
Let's just do this.
The point is, no, I'm
Go
done.
ahead. No, I
I
want
got
you
a
to
statement.
finish.
I'm done. So anyway, we don't have that power. Other than that, I think accountability is 100%. So I agree with that. But let's be clear, we don't have that power.
Let me go back to my original point of order to get all this conversation started. I won't have this conversation again. I don't operate that way. Believe me, better YouTube my behind. I don't operate this way. One time I have a conversation like this, then it's time to do what we got to do. With that being said, Mr. Chairman, I recommend that you take the bylaws out of order, and we need to deal with the bylaws right now, because whatever this institution does is governed by bylaws. So I think we ought to go out of order on the agenda and deal with the bylaws right now.
That's fair. Okay, that's fine. Let's have bylaws, which is item 13, Texas Southern University Board of Regents revised bylaws. We actually have board counsel present, Sharissa Alexander, who worked on the revisions to the bylaws and can give the board an update of the material changes. And if you have any questions, she can answer those questions. Ms. Alexander, you have the floor.
Good afternoon,
Afternoon.
Chairman Mack and fellow regents. My name is Sharissa Alexander, and I'm with O'Hanlon, Dimrath, and Castillo. And as Regent Mack said, I am your board counsel. And here with me, I don't see them in the room, but one of our shareholders is here, Mr. Ben Castillo, and another colleague, Mr. Rico Gonzalez. And we have been charged with
Ben, before you go, Ben, can you stand about
Garcia,
where's
I'm sorry.
Ben? Where's Ben?
He must have stepped out because I
Okay.
think he thought that the bylaws are going to come a little later.
Got it. Understood.
On
Go
the
ahead.
agenda. So our first task was to be charged with looking at the bylaws and taking a comprehensive view of them to get an understanding of what they say and also what powers it gives the board, and give us an opportunity to actually explore what the law says, what the statutes say, and to ensure that these bylaws are actually in compliance with those, and to actually find some opportunities to utilize the powers that are authorized to the board that are in the statutes. We also looked at other universities, such as independent universities like MSU or Texas Women's University or Stephen F. Austin, and just to kind of see what they're doing, kind of compare and contrast, see if we're all in the same lane as other universities. And then we just looked at each other at our university specifically to see how these bylaws are working and are they serving the board as needed. So the first thing we did was, do you have your bylaws in front of you right now?
Given that it's so deep into the agenda, we need to.
Yeah, I'll
pull
give
our-
you an opportunity to pull them up.
Let's see. Okay.
And the bylaws, as you have there, are the final version, but if you were to go to the very end of the bylaws, starting on page 20, let me see. Starting on page 18, that will give you all of the areas that we made substantive changes. Now, we did take the opportunity to make grammar changes, alignment changes, periods, commas, those kind of things. So I won't bore you with all those changes. But the substantive changes come on those sections outlined, starting on page 18, where the lines that are empty, where there's no adopted dates. And we started with the board authorities, powers, and duties. And if you look in section 2, that part of the section is mainly comprises what powers you have that are granted to you by statute and by the Texas Education Code and other administrative codes that governs our type of university. And so what we specifically wanted to do with 1.2 was to make sure that we outlined the duties, responsibilities, and expectations of the board, and also capture the elements of the education code that empowers you to work effectively with the university as a whole.
Duties and responsibilities.
And so, I mean, if you were to look, I won't go into each of them, line by line.
I would go just material changes. If people have questions, they can.
Okay.
Because we've had this document, it's been circulated for a while. So.
Okay, so as you can see on 1.2, 1.2 B, C, and D, those were all serving to just basically outline your fiduciary duties, what you're responsible for doing under the Texas Education Code, and also just kind of clarifying what a board member's position is and what is expected of you. And we also added, which I feel like is a little bit unique, and I've seen in other universities' bylaws, encouraging the board in accordance with the Texas Education Code to communicate with other junior colleges within a 100-mile radius. So that helps us with our recruitment efforts. Then if you look on the next section, section 4, that pretty much spells out the duties of the officers of the board who are serving as executive officers. And it explains what specific duties and expectations that you all as officers are required to do while you're performing your duties. And we took that opportunity to kind of clarify some things that maybe have been left in the balance so that we can ensure that each of these officers know specifically what their duties are and how they interact with other positions. We've added immediate vice chair. That's one of the biggest changes that we have to this, is adding an immediate past chair as a position to the board. And we feel that that will facilitate in transitions and actually with the ease it helps with efficiency and transition as a new board chair comes on board. So there will be some changes throughout to recognize that change. So some things have been moved around or maybe altered so that we can make room for the new immediate past chair position.
Can I interject real quick? One section I want to go ahead and just harp on really quick, section 4.6, it's a board self-evaluation.
Yeah, that was next.
and we have done what I would call a preliminary, a board evaluation, the checkbox type format, and it's a good start. And what the goal was with this section is, given that we are the governing body, our self-evaluation has to be robust enough to make sure that we are implementing effective policies for the colleges. And the evaluation that we just did, albeit a good start point, we wanted to put into our governing document that this is something that we have to do on a consistent basis. We do it pursuant to SACS, and that's why we did that last one. But moving forward, we'll have in our documents a requirement to do a board self-evaluation that can kind of take into account what we hear from the public, complaints, things that are working, things that are positive. We need to be evaluating ourselves as much as we evaluate the administration. And if we're not doing a good job evaluating ourselves, we can't expect to have good policies for the university to follow, including president and administration staff. They're only taking direction from us and following the policies that we put in place. So I think 4.6, albeit innocuous, it doesn't really jump out at you, is actually a very critical, important addition to our bylaws to keep not only the university on the straight and narrow, but to keep the board itself on the straight and narrow. But I'll turn it back over. Go ahead.
Thank you. You actually, that was my next bullet point, and we put that in there, and it actually, we did spell out a few things when we considered what other universities were doing, and we have included a every 3-year on even year evaluation for you guys, and if you can also decide to evaluate yourselves more often if you choose. And then we also, another section that was added that we didn't really spell out in our initial bylaws were the disqualifications of an officer for malfeasance or for just acting inappropriately. And we felt that it was necessary to have that in your bylaws to empower you to govern your own board when there's in the presence of such, negative behavior.
Which page is that on?
That's
It's
on
page
section 4.7.
4.7. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And now, then we've moved on to the committees. Now, this section basically spells out gives an overarching explanation of what the committees are and how, what the duties of the committees are generally, and then it breaks it down into specific committees and what their duties are and how they're to interact with each other and their specific responsibilities.
Well,
And
I'm sorry, I hate to do it, but most of the committees are pretty much the same and are standard with most universities, academic affairs, finance, and things of that nature. We do have an additional committee that I think is important for our university, the athletics committee, which is new to these bylaws. Athletics in most universities, as everyone knows, is a revenue driver in some sense, and so if you're in the that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And so, enough regions have asked questions prior to us having an actual standing committee for athletics that when we started to take a look at other universities and their bylaws, other universities pay a large emphasis on athletics. In times of change where athletics now can be both a revenue driver, but also have some liability components attached to it because you have to have a watchful eye over the activities of those student athletes with NCAA regulations and restrictions. So we've added that as a standing committee, and that is different than what we've had in the past. But I think it serves this university well to focus on that and make sure that we can turn it into a revenue driver, and then also make sure that we don't have any issues as we move forward. So I wanted to highlight that. Teresa, as far as going through the committees, given that we have so many standing committees, I think I'd leave that for Regents to kind of read on their own.
Exactly.
And we will do committee assignments here today, so they'll understand shortly what their responsibilities are, and they can use that as a benchmark to figure out kind of what's the flexibility of their oversight so that they can continue their duties. But I would move on to sections 6, 7, and 8, and we can take questions from Regents if they have independent questions.
Certainly. So we really don't have very many changes after section section 4. When we go to 6, 7, and 8, we do have, now let me get my notes together. We go down to the actual, just the miscellaneous changes that we've made. And one of the miscellaneous changes that we've made is just to, as the law changes and as we make amendments in the law, that we actually can automatically amend our bylaws in order to stay in compliance with the law. And the other that we had, it was just a few word changes that we've made just to accommodate the addition of the athletics committee. That's pretty much it. It may have a. I'm sorry, what? That is in section 9, I believe.
9,
If you go to 9.1, we did make a word change on amendment of the bylaws. It basically clarifies how to amend the bylaws. Initially, it would say that in order to amend the bylaws, you'd have to send it. It just says send it to each member. It doesn't say exactly how to send it. So we wanted to clarify that that could be done by mail or electronic mail to each member within 35 days notice to give you guys enough time to review the actual amendment.
Is that
I think it's standard. It's pretty standard to allow the board enough time to actually have those amendments in their hands and to review them and consider. So that way, when you get them in your hands and then the subcommittee is working on sorting out the details, and then you can have the final versions and then come here and make your decision. And that's pretty much it for the amendments that we've had on this bylaws. And I've given you a list, kind of like a chart of things, what other universities have done and compared to what we're doing. And if you have any questions, I definitely would be open to answering them.
We got a Regent who wants the floor. Go ahead, Regent Price.
Thank you, Chairman. I have a point of clarification on item 5.2B. I noticed in that one, you removed the second vice chair from this committee structure on 5.2B, and you scratched out the second vice chair and you put in immediate past chair. And historically, I've never seen that in a lot of universities. So, and then the third sentence is the immediate past board chair if still serving as regent. What's the purpose of removing the second vice chair from this committee and put the immediate past chair?
Well, we have, because
Because we're
committees,
trying to groom the secretary, the vice chair, the second vice chair, the first vice chair, to the latter going to be chairman. So why would you remove the second vice from that leadership conversation?
they're not removed. They're
Okay.
actually a part of the committee. If you look at the last sentence, it says the second vice chair shall also be an officio, non-voting member of the executive committee. So they're present.
But
they're
they
getting-
can't vote.
Yes, and and the reason is that if you're in the committee and you have more than a quorum, five, then you'll end up having a quorum. And so having
So
the
hold on,
chair, the media vice
not being
chair.
rude, but so the chairman, the vice chair can vote, hop over the second vice, then the secretary. You know how crazy that sounds? We're gonna hop over the second vice to the secretary to vote.
Well,
But all four officers should be voting.
As you were saying before, the second vice chair you said it's in a grooming position. Is that correct? And
And it's
so,
grooming before the secretary,
and
so.
so if you also look at the immediate vice chair, they're also having an experience that the year before, that prior year's experience. And so they're helping guide the board in the direction that, they bring a sense of wisdom to the board and they're able to guide the board further. And so their vote that's what I would
This
expect.
don't pass the smell test. You wordsmithing it well.
No.
But this don't pass the smell test.
Mr. Chairman.
Sure. I understand.
Go ahead, Regent Mitchell.
So, yeah, yeah. So typically what happens, I mean, in other universities or otherwise, the immediate past chair is an ex officio member of the executive board, a non-voting member. So if, in order to deal with the issue of quorum, then I think that's what should happen is the immediate past chair should be a non-voting ex officio member. And the second vice chair would be,
Well,
it is.
I would disagree. Even in
So
our
I think
board,
that's what should happen.
the immediate past chair is a voting member of the committee, even if you're ex officio. I know there's been a little bit of debate, but I actually read the rule when I was serving in that position, and it confirmed that the person had the vote.
Push the button. Push the button. The little face. Go ahead.
It's on. Okay, and I understand what you're saying, Regent Price, but there's nothing set in stone that said that if you're a second vice chair, your next move is vice chair. I mean, we have a clear example of that right now. Previously I was the second vice chair. I'm not moving to the vice chair position, so that's not really how it worked. It worked on us deciding, nominating and electing someone. And that don't necessarily mean that they have to have had the position prior to, second vice chair or the vice chair. That don't mean the vice chair would become the chair. So that's not the way it's done.
I'd also like to add that, if you are the chair, you'll, have 2 years of experience in that. If you're moving to a position of immediate past chair, you actually have a bit of experience, obviously, to add. It's not uncommon in my experience to actually empower that person with a vote so that their vote is required, and they actually show up and continue to participate in the meeting, so you have good transition and good history. So that's another rationale for it. But
Go ahead, Regent
but
Myers.
we can do whatever we want, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me interject here, Regents. Obviously, there's some, I won't necessarily say disagreements, but maybe some misinterpretations of the roles. But Chair, I don't know if it's appropriate to suggest, I think we should get through the bylaws, approve the bylaws. I do have an edit to 1.2 that I want to make a motion on, but in this particular section of the bylaws, I'm just not for sure if I want to spend another 30 minutes trying to dissect this in this conversation at this point in time. So whatever the appropriate motion to move is to see, can we?
I do have a question on another
Yeah.
section, though.
Okay.
I'm a little confused about the document. You have before us in the front part what is to be the final? Is that how?
That is with final edits that I've
With the
made
final
after
edits.
working with the subcommittee. Thank you so much for your work on this, Regent Rose. It's great, and Regent Myers, I appreciate your help.
So there's when I look at the last page, I don't necessarily see all that language in the 1.2 in the beginning. Beginning of the document, it does say proposed amendment to that section.
That's Myers' amendment.
That's his amendment?
Yes.
That
Okay.
is the the section,
Additional
right.
amendment that was submitted to us after these were already posted.
Okay.
So we just have that there. I think Regent Myers would like to propose that as an amendment to these bylaws.
Well, I think the authority comes, correct me if I'm wrong, since you're the attorney giving advice, but I think I'm reading from section 106.31 in the education code, where it talks about TSU and our powers, and it says administrative powers. The board shall establish the several departments in the university, determine the offices, professorships, and other positions at the institution, appoint a president, appoint the professors and other officers and employees, prescribe their duties, fix their respective salaries. The board shall enact bylaws, rules, and regulations deemed necessary for the successful management and governance of the institution. The board may remove any professor, instructor, tutor, or other officer or employee connected with the institution when, in its judgment, the best interest and proper operation of the institution require it. So that's the authority given to us by the state legislature, and the authority I was referencing before when I actually did mention I had read the statute. But it does seem that you are including a lot of that language in the bylaws, which I happen to agree with Regent Myers. Sometimes people don't necessarily go to the statute, and so it is not uncommon for folks lawyers to actually recite some of that language in there so that people have proper guidance. So thank you for including that as a reiteration of the powers given to us by the state.
That was the problem because, and I don't think that if we're going to go in that direction, that we do pull directly from the statute, so there will be no confusion about what your powers are as a board as it relates to the overall university.
Right. And those edits, as once we read through these here, Regent Terrell, that language, I just thought it would strengthen the oversight
Certainly.
aspect of what we're doing as a board. Unfortunately, I did not get it in time when the final version of the bylaws was completed, and so I had to put it in at the end here and make an amendment to that.
Well, I understand how it works now.
Yeah.
No longer confused. Appreciate it.
Our amendments, because I know that you had some issues with the language, both of you, about the immediate past chair and position. So you always can propose an amendment to this, and it would be up to you guys to discuss and decide upon if you want to change something, add, approve, subject to an amendment, you know what I'm saying? And then vote upon that, and then whatever you guys finish with, I can put it into the final.
Mr. Chairman, I know I have a bit of a time crunch. I'd like to get us through as much of this vote as possible.
So we do have one amendment that is already been proffered to the board. If there's a motion, I'll entertain a
So
motion.
seconded.
Make a
Motion on the amendment? or
Motion on the amendment, but hold on, go ahead. I'll pull the motion down. Go ahead.
I would like to make a motion to, well, I can't necessarily say we approve the bylaws as is because we got one segment here that has not been resolved between the
Correct.
regions here. So I would like to make a motion to approve the edits to 1.2C.
As an amendment
As
to
an
the
amendment.
proposed motion?
Yes, that's proposed motion to approve the amendments to 1, 2C to the board for consideration.
I second the motion.
Motion's been made and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Amendment carries.
And Chair, as it relates to the bylaws as a whole, obviously we have some thoughts here from the group here on how the structure of the leadership will look. Not for sure if this is the appropriate setting to spend the next 30, 45 minutes trying to figure out exactly what that is. So I'd like to put that on the table.
Yeah,
I'd like to
Mr.
actually
Chairman,
vote on it, and if we
yeah.
actually want to make an amendment at a later date, we can change it next year.
Well, I think what we can do is, I'd rather just offer, I think how about this? Why don't we just leave it like it was before the revisions?
You can propose a motion to accept the proposed amendments, subject to that change
Right.
being made.
So just leave it like it was before.
And then we can vote on that.
Well,
and then it passes.
I think there may be some difference on that. So I think if we want to debate that one particular issue, I prefer it be segregated in that particular item.
That means that's why you leave it as it is. You leave it as it is because you don't vote on an amendment that we're not definitely in agreement with. Why would you vote on the bylaws? So we leave it like it is, and then you come back with just that.
When you say leave it as it is, it's proposed to us in current form. So are you trying to make a motion to the item that we have?
Yeah, just like we did with the 1.2.
Well,
I would move to.
I do have
Hold
a
on,
legal.
he had. Let's talk this out. I know what you want to do. You want to go back. Let's let
But
him.
I do have a concern. I mean, I think, it's been kind of sort of raised because there would be 5 people on the executive committee with a vote.
That's an issue. And let me, if you don't mind, I'll just add to that. Look, executive committee meets in emergencies.
Which is very rare.
Extremely rare. Regent Mitchell, in your time as chair, I don't think you ever called it.
Yeah.
I don't think
Not executive.
I don't think Lewis ever called an executive committee meeting.
not.
Maybe for a hurricane, maybe. Well, I'll leave that alone. So maybe for a hurricane, we might call something like that because the statute is narrowly tailored to address issues where life is in danger or public calamity, and rarely is that going to happen for university-related matters, right? Or we pray that they don't happen. So, but the truth of the matter is that in the event that we do need to meet, if you are calling an emergency meeting, it's because you don't have enough regents available to make a quorum. Therefore, emergency committee or executive committees are usually less than the quorum requirement. We need to keep it at 4 people, right? And if we go back and have this immediate past chairs being there, we have 5, and that kind of disrupts apple cart. Are you saying go back to what the current version of the bylaws are?
Yeah, I was saying the current version of the bylaws. That's it. Yeah, just that.
I make a motion.
I move that we that 5.
And is this for later discussion?
It could be.
Okay.
I think if we just do it just what we did with 1.2, I make the motion that 5.2 B remains as the old bylaws, our current bylaws.
And we gotta make sure that it wasn't shifted, so.
Shifted in what? Well, okay, well,
I think another, can I propose a different way? If that's-
I'll hear you.
And yeah, if not, it's fine. If we propose to just, we can have a proposal to adopt the proposed amendments as written and then take a vote. And if the majority wants to adopt the language as it is, then it would be a moot point to even talk about that.
That's not, no, so now I'm gonna do that.
I got better. I used to be the bylaw chair for Texas State School now, so you can actually vote on the entire document as is, but you can amend, you can put an amendment to exclude item 5.2B to be considered at a later date.
Which means, right, we
And go
won't
back
change.
to the old section.
Yeah.
If it doesn't pass, this one item won't be on the agenda to bring it back to open session.
So it'll remain.
No.
That subject matter will remain. That's my point.
Yeah, we'll have to follow up another board meeting. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well, we'll pull your original motion down, and then one thing,
his.
right, we'll take his, but real quick, Regents, we're being told from the comms people that they're not picking up our audio because we're not turning on the microphones.
Right.
So she turned yours on just now.
It
So-
needs to be red.
Yeah, it'll light up red when you're live, but we're missing a lot of the audio.
Right there. Yeah.
So just FYI, when you speak, make sure you turn your
You
mic
didn't
on.
need me to restate the motion?
Yeah, we pulled that motion down, and so you.
Okay, the motion should read,
No, whoever wants to make the motion makes the motion.
You ain't gonna do that. Yeah, I don't forget my motion now. The motion was, to approve the bylaws as written, excluding, section 5.2B to be considered at a later board meeting.
And I'll just friendly amendment that
Hold on.
it's a
Motion's
subject
on the
matter.
floor. Motion's on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion's been moved and properly second. All in favor, say aye.
Is there a discussion?
Is there a discussion?
All I want to do is make sure what she said was right, and that was if 5.2 is not what 5.2 is going to be. So I just want to make sure it's 5.2 or the subject matter. We're fine.
Got it.
That's it.
This document has been approved by the board excluding 5.2B.
That's that's the motion.
Okay.
Correct.
Exactly.
Make it simple as I can.
And so.
All right.
I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Teresa, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. All right, we're going to take time to go in executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551-071 through 074 and 076.
Didn't think it was going to be that lively, did you?
We
Well, I didn't know
move
how
into
many
executive
people-
session at 2:04